Hey y'all, welcome back to Keisha's Crumbs. Welcome back to the channel. Before we go any further, please just take a moment to subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we upload another video. Today, oh my goodness, do you see how beautiful and flat that layered cake was? Fresh out the oven. So today we're actually going to talk about cake collars. Let me know in the comments how many of you all have heard the term cake collars. I know myself, I've been baking for quite a while and I had never heard the term before. Quite honestly, I've even found out since then that there are professionals who either don't know that these collars exist or they just choose not to use them. But I want to make sure that I pass this crumb right on to you because I think you'll like it. Right now, I'm just showing the ingredients for a basic homemade cake recipe. And as you can see, I have my standard 5 eggs there. This is not a cake video. The point is to show you the effects of the collar. But hey, since we're here, why not? In that cup, the reason why the milk looks the color it does is because I actually take the flavor and I put it inside the milk. How many of you that bake forget the flavor? Have you ever done that before? I know I have. So it doesn't take me but one or two times to make the same mistake, and I find a remedy for it. So what I have started to do is I actually put my flavor inside my milk. That way I don't forget it. And now here we are creaming the butter. Now, I've noticed that a lot of people put their cream and their butter in the mixer at the same time. I don't do that. I like to see my butter cream before I actually add the sugar. So I like to see this develop in layers. You'll hear me talk about the word layers a lot because I just like to layer things in my cooking. I think it's a way to make sure that you're doing each step effectively. And honey, I didn't grow up baking. So, like they say, baking is truly a science. So, some things you can finagle, some things you can do what you feel, but for the most part, you have to follow the rules. It's a strict game. This is what I want y'all to pay attention to. Do you see how beautifully this creamed butter has fluffed? So initially it was just butter creamed, and now look how the texture has altogether changed now that the sugar and butter are both incorporated. Ugh, just luscious. Here we are with the eggs. Question about eggs. I've seen some people who say they scramble their eggs a bit before putting them into the mixer, and some people tell you to just put them in one at a time. How do you like to incorporate your eggs? Personally, you won't see me do it here, but I incorporate my eggs one at a time. I've tried the method of giving them a light scramble beforehand, and to me, it's just too much whipping. The method I use is dropping one egg in at a time and mixing it. You only mix each egg until you see it disappear. Once it disappears, you can continue with the next egg. So now look at how this batter is steadily developing. Now it's just fluffy and yellow, and the color has changed so intensely because of the yolk from the egg. And you know how we must always do it. It's dry, wet, dry, right? Well, so they say. I don't think that's a heartfelt rule either, but I do try to follow it for the most part. However, as you can see here, I only start out with a little flour. I am so paranoid about my batter clumping up and my flour being lumped up inside the batter that I add just a little bit in the beginning and I let it mix, and then I go in with my milk. Okay, so just a little flour and then my milk. So I am taking the dry, wet, dry method, but just is not as much flour in the beginning. Another thing you can see that I've done differently is that I do scrape down, but I don't scrape down between each pour. In other words, when I incorporate flour, I don't scrape down right after the flour, then milk and scrape down again. I try not to disturb my batter too much. Whatever disturbance there'll be, I try to let it the batter the I try to let the paddle do that work. So what I will do is I'll put the flour in the bowl and mix it just a bit, and then I put milk in the bowl and mix it just a bit. So in other words, after I've incorporated one instance of flour and one instance of milk, then I'll scrape down. And now here I am going back in with flour. As you can see, this time I've incorporated quite a bit more, but it's important that we end with flour. So they say, right? So I am going to leave this much of the flour in the bowl to incorporate in the end after my milk. So see, I'm not scraping down right now. A lot of people go in and actually scrape down after flour, milk, each one. But I go in after I've done both flour and milk. So I'm just allowing that to mix just a little bit. You definitely don't want to overmix your cakes. That's something you just have to get used to, or you become acclimated to how the batter should look when you're mixing it. And it's definitely something that takes practice. I will say that. If you want to learn how to make homemade cakes, go ahead and start now. Don't put it off, because it's just one of those things where practice makes perfect, if there's such a thing as perfect. So here I am again scraping down. Now, if you can see on that beater, that batter is not smooth at all. You see how it just looks like it has lumps in it? It's just not smooth and shiny. So it's not anywhere near the end. At this point, I'm going in with the last bit of flour. Just going to grab my spatula to get it all in. I'm not particularly enthused with this model of KitchenAid. I have two KitchenAids, and this one I got on sale. I think at Kohl's. Yes, I'm certain that was at Kohl's during the holidays. And I thought it was just like my other mixer, but this one is different. It was supposed to be a newer model, but it's a bit different in the way it's configured. I'll show you all that another time to explain better what I mean, but it makes it difficult to go in with the ingredients if you ask me. But now we're mixing, y'all. So this is basically our batter. We have creamed both our sugar and our butter. We've incorporated and mixed in our 5 eggs. And we've gone in with our dry, wet, dry alternates of flour or dry ingredients and milk, because the dry ingredients does, of course, have more than just flour, right? There's flour, there's baking soda, there's baking powder, and there's salt. Okay? And all of the dry ingredients were whisked in the beginning. I at least use a whisk to fluff and incorporate the dry ingredients before I mix them in the bowl. So I'm going in for one last mix. It is so tempting to overmix your cakes, but this is a very heavy duty machine and it is moving. Having said that, how many of you all use your whisk attachment on your KitchenAids or your stand mixers when you're making your cakes? My daughter started out using the whisk, and I was just afraid that it was incorporating a bit too much air. So I used this paddle instead. Let me know down in the comment section below whether you prefer to use your whisk attachment or your paddle. Now I'm cleaning this paddle off with my spatula just to get off that residual. And now I'm going to actually detach the bowl from the stand, because as you can see, I have quite a bit of flour around the edges, a little that has fallen off the neck of the mixer into the bowl. So I actually take the spatula and just do a little hand mixing at the end. Now, what's quite interesting is that my daughter, after she started making cakes on her own, just with little supervision from me, she brought to my attention that this is what she does. She says, Mom, I always give it an extra hand mix at the end. And I was so impressed with her for, coming up with that idea because later on, I have seen older ladies who make cakes and they have the same suggestion. They tell you to go in. But here is the start of the show, you all. These are the cake collars, and these are actually handmade. These are basically strips of foil with folded paper towel inside. I won't be able to include the video where I showed you how I made these because it's on my other phone. But I can assure you I have German chocolate cakes to make next week, and they'll be layered as well. So I will show you how to make these when I do the German chocolate. But what it is foil with paper towel that has been folded up in the same shape as this foil. You wet the paper towel, you dampen it, and then you fold it up in the foil, in the aluminum. So what it does is once it goes into the oven, it creates a barrier of moisture around the pan. And you see how I'm just taking this strip or this cake collar, a homemade cake collar, right? I made this with my own hands, a homemade cake collar, and I'm just using my thumbs to press the top of the foil or the collar down around the pan. That's how you do to just get it to sit in place. So see, I had two pieces. There's the larger piece there. And now I'm going to go in with the smaller strip. But both of these foil strips contain damp paper towel on the inside. Now, this is my second time using these, so the paper towel isn't as moist. And I'll tell you another thing about that. The more moisture you have in your paper towel, the lighter the edges of your cake will be as well. So not only do cake collars help or make, as a matter of fact, absolutely make your layered cakes flat on the top where they don't create a dome when you bake them, but they also eliminate crisp edges. Now, once you have your cake collar in place, the homemade version, you need something to attach it and hold it to the pan. So I'm taking a piece of twine here. And I'm just going to take the twine, and once I get it wrapped around, it's a little easier to do if you have someone to hold the collar in place while you tie it. But I'm just using the twine, and I'm going to tie a tight knot in the front so that as I get ready to put these pans in the oven, my cake collars won't fall off. Okay? So once again, it is damp paper towel that is inside this aluminum foil, and we have made homemade cake collars. How does it work? The moisture from the cake collar with the paper towel inside creates a moisture barrier around the cake so that as it's baking, the exterior of the cake does not bake faster and harder and firmer than the interior. It all bakes evenly. So now, as you can see, I have them both on my big cookie sheet, and we are ready for the oven. And voila. Look at how beautiful this cake is, y'all. You see how it's not domed on the top? Because a lot of bakers actually go in and then they just have to take a leveler or a cake knife and they cut it off and figure out what to do with the crumbs. Well, that's fine if you have cake pops to make, but hey, I don't. Now I want to show you how these edges aren't hard. You see how I'm just lightly pushing and making an indentation? The edges are just as soft as the top of the cake. And that is only due to us using a cake collar. Once again, if the cake collar was really, really moist, this was my second time using those. But guys, you would not believe it. If the cake collars were super moist, then it would be the you wouldn't even be able to see edges on the cake. Now, these are the cake collars that are sold in stores. This one is by Wilton. They're quite expensive, so check it out. Hey y'all, I used the wrong terminology. These are actually cake collars. Cake collars are the things they put around the cake to hold the icing and the filling in place when it's not iced around the perimeter. So, cake collar is the wrong word. These that we created are actually called cake strips. So forgive me for using the wrong terminology. Y'all, look at Shein with these cake strips for $4. What is she in? Baby, what don't they sell? Shein, and then have the audacity to have good reviews on them. So I may have to order me some from there. Because in stores, they're just a bit expensive for me, especially considering that you can make them out of the foil and the paper towel. Now I'm seeing that they're slightly less expensive than they were when I first checked. Like here you have a 4-pack on Amazon for $11. That's good. Then you have the Wilton. So as you can see, the Wilton brand ones, which are the ones that I have that I showed you at home, they're $12.99. They were closer to 20 bucks when I first started pricing them. So I see they've gone down a bit. Maybe the manufacturers caught on to the fact that people were making them at home. Duh. So I'll be glad to show you guys that. But like I said, it's just damp paper towel that's folded up neatly in the same shape of the foil. And then you fold the paper towel up inside the foil and make sure that everything comes out an appropriate size so that you can easily wrap it around your pan, around your cake pans. I hope you all enjoy this video. Please come back to see us soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keisha's Crumbs.